this is the garden cushion that we are going to make, because as you can see, this one has been outside for way too long and it's really dirty. So I'm going to measure it up and I will meet you by the sewing machine. So after measuring the cushions, I found that the finished dimensions were 41 centimeters long by 45 centimeters wide, with this little flanged edge that was 2 centimeters. So when you're making a template to cut your fabric from, you need to add 1.5 centimeters in all directions to the template, basically expanding the original dimensions by 3 centimeters, as you can see here. So the back dimensions are 44 centimeters by 48 centimeters, which is 3 centimeters bigger than both of these dimensions. On the front dimensions, however, I've added this little flap at the top that's 3.5 centimeters high. This is to allow things to fold over themselves, which will allow us to create a clean seam when sewing the front to the back. So I'm going to show you what to do next. I have cut the fabric already. So that's my front cover, which is 47.5 centimeters by 48. And I've also cut one of the backs, as you can see. And now I'm going to lay them on top of each other, right side to right side, and I'm going to pin each cover to itself. So I have pinned all of the middle patterns together, corners, center sections, and I'm ready to go with the sewing. Before we start stitching, put your stitch guide on to 1.5 centimeters from the needle to the stitch guide. That'll help you stay nice and precise when you're doing your seam allowances. And now we're going to start stitching. So I've just put the needle down. I'm going to do a couple of stitches forward and a couple of stitches backwards, and then follow this all the way down, making sure that my fabric is on the stitch guide, and I'm not tugging on the fabric, I'm not heaving on anything, I'm just allowing it to go through the machine. So fabric is now coming to a corner where I need to now turn. My foot and my fabric are aligned together, and that's a good little tip, because then when you lift the foot up and turn the fabric 90 degrees, it should be and is in the right position for you to then put the foot down and continue forward with your 1.5 seam allowance. I'm going to continue to sew the cover all the way across till I hit the next flap at the other side, so until I've sewn up to here. So coming up to the bottom, reverse a few stitches, remove the pins, and we're going to turn it inside out and just check everything, make sure that the pattern is okay. I'm just pushing the corners out so that we get kind of a nice pointed edge, and if I can see that I'm not quite getting that, then I will open them up again. Not too bad. Open it up again and try and take some more out from the seam, and then we're just checking our pattern match, and as you can see, I'm really happy with that. As you saw on the grey cushion from the beginning, there is a border that runs the whole way around the foam cushion. So I've set my stitch guide to 2 centimeters now away from the needle, and I'm going to sew 3 sides of that. And I'm just going slowly, like 5 centimeters at a time. Every time I stop, make sure that the needle is in the fabric, and then again, just make sure that all of that excess is away from the seams, and make your way all the way around. I have my tape measure, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 2 up from the base and put a pin there, so I know where to stop my needle in order to get an accurate square. I'm going to continue until my needle is in line with the pin I just put into place. Take the pin out, lift the foot up, and turn everything. And because the stitch guide is also at 2 centimeters, you see that the fabric and the foot align really, really nicely against the stitch guide. And so we're just going to continue down the next side. And then again, just continue till I'm about 10 centimeters from the top. So off we go. And I'm about in line with where I was last time. So go up a little further, one last stitch and get it out the machine. Now we have like a sewn in border that goes the whole way around and a pocket in the center that is loose, but quite a nice well sewn border the whole way around that is 2 centimeters. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up the old cushions. Right now I have taken out the pad that was in the grey cushion. I literally just chopped it all out and it's still in really good nick, as you can see. Now it really shows you what that corner edge is all about. And as long as you fit everything directly into the corners, it gives you quite like a nice finish because it's quite padded and raised. So what we're going to look at now is how you finish the edges. And as you can see, there's one seam allowance left. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold over the front cover and turn in the seam allowance and actually pin it all into place like this. I've started pinning, and as you can see, I'm getting like a nice clean line with good pattern match the whole way across. And I just wanted to show you here, what I did was I unpicked about a ½ centimeter down, and then I cut out the corner so that you don't see the little bit of overlock on the side, because then when you finish the cushion, as you can see, there's not going to be a frayed edge showing or anything that you don't want to see. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew all the way down until I hit just onto the seam there, and then I'm going to turn the fabric. And as I'm getting there, I'm going to remove the pin, just hold everything nice and securely. And then I'm literally just onto the seam. I'm going to lift the foot up and turn everything 90 degrees. So now what I'm trying to do is just make sure I stay as close to the edge as possible, because I've got that folded seam allowance underneath. And every time I get a little further, just making sure to bring the excess fabric away. And then just keep sewing. As I come to a pin, I'm going to remove the pin like that. Now as I'm coming up to where my other seam allowance is, I'm going to remove the pin, and I'm going to keep an eye again on where that 2 centimeter seam is, and I'm going to mark it with a new pin. And then I'm just going to sew down to that pin. Remove it when I'm 1 stitch away and hand turn myself to where the pin used to be. Then again, lift the foot, turn everything 90 degrees and put the foot back down. And now I'm just wanting to meet the 2 sew lines that I already have together. This is what we have just sewn. It's a nice straight line and it meets the last bag that we sort of created the first time round. Now the last thing we need to do is just seal off the edges, because as you can see, they're kind of bursting open. So we're just going to sew just down the edge to hold that just into place, and then our cushion should be done. All right. Da 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 da. Here is our finished on the chair in the garden cushion. Thanks for sewing with me, guys, and see you soon.